Welcome to Flex Factor with Marc Navarro, the podcast that cuts through the noise to bring you the best strategies and insights in the coworking world. Produced by Spacespring. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Flex Factor podcast. Apologies for the delay in this episode, but we needed a little bit more of time to be able to bring you this topic. Actually, 2 days ago, at the time of this podcast recording, I was with my colleague Manuel at the closing ceremony of CWSC. This episode is a special one. I will share a few thoughts about the conference, and after we will have a special guest for a short interview. In case that you didn't listen to the episode talking about CWSC, which stands for Coworking Spain Conference, I would advise to listen to the episode number 1, the interview with Manuel. He's the CEO of CWSC and he talks about the conference quite a lot. But to summarize, it's a 2-day event with talks, panels, and a really strong community that takes place in Spain, usually in late May. The topics discussed in the conference usually are applicable to any co-working space in the world, but it's true that when we look at specific cities, we tend to focus on the Spanish market, although we compare those markets in Spain with other markets all over the world, especially in Europe and Latin America. The conference has 2 tracks. The main one has translation, both from English to Spanish and Spanish to English, and that means that around 80% of the content is translated. So what I want to talk about then? First, I think that, maybe I want to brag a bit. We got great feedback. But I'm happy about it, absolutely. But I don't want to talk about it because of that. I think it's important to understand, to analyze what we've got these compliments. In the following days, we will analyze it much deeper and we'll have a team meeting to discuss. But there are some of them that I want to share with you. First, one of the things that I have been told after the event and during the event is like, you have amazing talks. How we do this, right? Manuel and me choose the topics. We think what's interesting to talk about. We talk with the speakers, learn more about what they are doing. And after that talk, I send them a briefing, right? Once the briefing is accepted, it does not always happen at first. It's like sometimes we have to go back and forth to be sure that everything is fine on both sides. The speakers work on their deck and they send to me and I review it. Basically, I want to make sure that the talk is okay and it matches the briefing, what we agreed that the speaker was going to focus on. Sometimes I ask for modifications and sometimes I request changes if it does not match what we agreed, of course. And I have to say that in this year, 2 out of the 4 best speakers in the conference, according to the attendees, because we have a system for voting, so we record how good a talk was according to the attendees, kept constant communication with me. So I was not only giving a hand to them, but they were like, listen to my advice in how our audience wants to get the information or what is more interesting to them, because we have been doing this event for 14 years. I have been managing the content since the 2017 edition and I have been involved in the 2016 edition. So, well, I know one thing or two about what they like and what they don't like. I also think it's important, and in this conference, because of some previous feedback, we improved, it's to tell the attendees about the talk. In this case, this year, we had information between sessions, so you can see in the screen what was happening in both rooms, so they can choose. But what we have been doing for a long time is to publish the briefing in the website, so they have the title, but they also have a description, objectives, and the key points that are going to be discussed in each talk, so they can choose wisely, right? They can go to the session that it's more appealing to them. On the other hand, we have some specific formats, so some kind of a special talk or panel or something like that. It's important to understand that there are cultural differences and that not each talk, like a special talk, can be done if you don't have a very special kind of MC, for example, right? So in this case, for example, we have one versus all. In this case, the guest was Oscar Garcia Toledo, and he did great. How this works, it's in this case, there's an interviewer. In this case, it was myself, and I asked him the really very spicy questions that the audience asked him. The clue in this case is that the audience asks questions anonymously. So then the spiciness of the questions skyrocket, right? Because the anonymity blanket provided by this kind of format makes that the people really go to the point, right? And really ask very tough questions. Last year, Atticus Gabriel Espin, it was also a great session. On the other hand, I think that it's important to understand that you should not get in love with stuff. And by stuff, I mean talks, format, etc. At some point, we get in love with an Agora kind of talks, really open. They require an amazing speaker, and we can get that. There are some people that is really good at speaking, but then depending on the shape of the room and the kind of layout you had, that might not work. So it's something that you have to understand. That's something that at some point work because of the speakers you have or because of the venue you have, might not work in a different location, might not work with a different speaker. And it's important not to really be blind about changes in your conditions, right? What's surrounding, what's the environment, etc. So when something works, try to make it better. When something does not work, get rid of it unless you need it, right? If it's something you need, then you must fix it somehow. We also have been praised by good organization. I think that making an event for a lot of long time, like practice, makes things better, right? That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. You practice, listen to feedback, try new stuff, because if you don't try new stuff, then you will be stuck, and replace things that don't work and improve. Having the same team, especially if it's a close-knit one, it helps a lot. CWSC, it's a team of 3, and we are completely different, and our differences make us stronger, not weaker. We know each other, we respect each other's work, and we understand which are each member of the team's strengths and weaknesses. Well, actually, that's called a team, right? And we know that when something new has to be done, or when something has to be done, we know that at least one of us is going to be good at that, right? So that thing is assigned to that person, and we are good to go, right? And of course, I'm not going to deny this. We are Spaniards. We love each other, but sometimes we want to kill each other in a figurative way. But of course, that's the pride of passion. Then another thing that was mentioned, it was, you had an amazing setup. Well, 2 years ago, actually we had an issue, right? Because we have been working with a venue for 3 months. And at some point, there was a very ridiculous situation. And we had to look for a new venue. And then Manuel gave me a call, and he was like, hey, I have a private professional venue, and yeah, it's a risk, because you have to pay a lot of money in advance, and you are always afraid, right? No matter what, because it's we have a really long track, but it was something that we never did before. So we were like, okay, let's go for it. What we got in exchange is a lot of professionalism. We get rid of institutional talks, and everyone was happier, including the team. because it was super nice to have a really dedicated team of people. These last 2 years, the staff of El Beatriz had been amazing, right? So every time, every need you have, they do their best to do it, and they do it with a smile on their faces, and that's amazing. And on the other hand, with a venue like this, you can cut cost in some areas. For example, translation, it's much cheaper because you have like the special phone booths that translator use. They are already in place in the venue, so you can save a lot of money in that. And then maybe this is my favorite, the nice vibes. It's like, hey, the conference is amazing. Yeah, and it is, like the atmosphere, the vibes there. And of course, we do have an amazing group of people attending the conference every year. They are super welcoming to newcomers. And of course, we also have amazing weather and food. So it's also something that it works on our side. So that's also great. But you have to take into consideration that as the event host, you set the tone, right? You can influence how people interact. You are creating an atmosphere by how you act, but how you talk to people, by how you are on stage and off stage too. The style of interacting with others and how you treat yourself, newcomers, I think that it's super important. And I would like to think that our tone is like professional but informal and close. I don't know. I mean, maybe someone has to tell us about how they feel about this. But, it's like we act like this because we are like this. There's too many years and too many hours surrounded by people to be able to fake it, right? So it's like we behave as we are. And again, like Manuel is different than me, Laura is different than me. It's like each of us is different. But at the end, we try that everyone that comes to the conference feels good, feels at home, feels that, it's like that awkward moment that you get into a new place and you don't know anyone. It's like we try to do our best that everyone feels welcome. And this end up in a situation in which I think we must talk about the fact that you have to put people first. You might have the temptation of putting sponsors first, but guess what? If there are no attendees, there won't be any sponsor. No matter how well you treat sponsors, they come because they are attendees. That's the logical reason, but I think that you should do it because it's the right thing to do. How I see it and how we see it, it's that an attendee, pays a ticket, books a flight, books an accommodation, pay for all this, and then spends whatever the conference lasts, in our case 2 days, in an event, while the pile of tasks and stuff to do back at home, it keeps piling up, right? So, it's respect, it's appreciating, and I like to see myself as the guardian of this kind of stuff, right? So it's like I have to protect them from crap, and we really, as a team, and Manuel is super into this thought to be like, hey, it's like good content, great vibes. This makes a great event. And I'm not going to lie, doing things like this, it's like I could give a call to someone and be like, hey, do you want to talk at CWSC? The title will be this. Hang the phone, send an email a few days before to get sure I have the deck. I can do that. It's much less work, but then the result is not going to be the same. Okay, so these were my thoughts about the CWSC and about events. But now replace the word event by coworking space. And I guess that 95% of what I told you you can apply to your business.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by SpaceSpring, your fast track to co-working space management.
For the last part of the podcast, I have a special guest because during CWSC, we had a special session that it's not usually held at CWSC, but for personal reasons. Actually, the reason it was that I had a super bad crash in November, a bike crash. Break some ribs, had some issues. So long story short, we canceled the Flexwork Academy. That it's an event that precedes the CWSC. So I decided to have a little bit of that academy spirit inside the conference, like during the conference, instead of having it beside. And for that session, I needed someone who do it with, and I couldn't find a better person. I could not think on a better person than María Santos. Hi, María.
Hi, Marc. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. We're still riding the wave of energy from coworking Spain. It never fails to leave us both inspired and, in the best way, a little exhausted. Let me introduce myself. I'm María Santos from Ourense, that's a small city in Galicia. It's a region in the northwest of Spain with a population of around 100,000 people. In 2013, I co-founded the first co-working space in the city, Magma Espacio. And it's about 300 square meters, and most of the members are freelancers and remote workers. I run the spaces with my two business partners, Manu Alvarez and Martinho Fortes. We are all interior designers, and we have always combined our co-working project with other creative and design work. Today, Magma is a strong space with a really great community. We are very proud of what we built.
Actually, before this call, we have been chit-chatting a bit. And we discovered we have a shared hate. We do hate gamers' chairs. I'm an industrial designer. Maria is an interior designer, and we both like, let's say, I think, more minimalistic kind of furniture.
Yes, there are better always. I want to tell you how this story started. This past winter, I was on a co-working sky trip in the Pyrenees, just relaxing and enjoying the snow when I got a phone call from Marc.
Yeah, that's true. I can be really annoying. If I have your phone, at some point I'm going to use it.
Yes, and he asked me if I would like to lead a session at the Co-working Spain Conference 2025 about a very interesting but a bit controversial topic. Are co-working spaces in small cities sustainable or even possible? There had been a lot of debate about this on a co-working Spain conference WhatsApp group, and the idea was to turn that discussion into something more open and collaborative, but above all find answer to this question.
Yeah, but let me tell you, all listeners, okay? Maria is really polite, and she does not want to say, but I'm going to tell you. The truth it was I was really frustrated to realize that the discussion was going on, and it was basically not going anywhere. So when I called Maria, I was like, "Hey, help us move to from a discussion that goes nowhere to really take action and do something, right? It's not about just finding an answer to the question if these spaces are possible or not, but let's find a way together to figure it out how we can make these kind of spaces viable using the knowledge that you had and all the other people in the session had, because we had really nice guests in that session.
Yeah. And in that moment, I loved the idea immediately. I could already imagine the energy and the value, it could bring a session where everyone could share real life tips and opinions. You warned me that time might be our enemy because when people start to participate, the session can feel too short, and you were right.
Well, I have run the Flexwork Academy for like 7 years. Well, not 7 years, actually, 7 times, because in some years we had more than one event. So I might have a tiny unfair advantage here, probably.
Yes, as we worked on it, the session started to take shape. We decided to focus on five key topics: economic sustainability, community impact, marketing, differentiation, and future perspectives. For each topic, we asked a key question and invited people to give quick, direct answer. The goal was to create two simple lists for each topic: what works and what doesn't. It was dynamic and fast paced, and the room was full of smart and generous people. So many great ideas and pieces of advice came out of that. Then we created five small groups, one for each topic. Within each group, people had a short but a really powerful debate to find what works and what doesn't work for each of the five areas. The energy was great. Everyone shared their experience, both the good and the not so good. After the discussion, people wrote down their best tips on post it notes. Then they placed them on a glass wall, leaving it full of finger marks. I really hope no one got a trouble for using the glass as a support. But in the end, we had this amazing wall full of real life insights, colors, and ideas.
Yeah, I would like to give a shout out here to the great staff at El Beatriz, which was the place where we host the conference. It's an amazing venue, but the team there, it's even greater than the venue. The venue looks so nice, but everyone there, it's so kind, and it's like available to help you. So shout out to them, because actually when we left the event, the glass was already clean.
Yeah.
Before we even finished the event, the was
Yes.
already clean.
Okay. That session ended up being one of my favorite moments of the conference. And to be honest, I'm very grateful that people voted it as one of their favorites.
Yeah, I mean, Maria, again, it's super humble. It's not going to tell you, but and this is a little bit of a secret thing, but she was voted the third best speaker. She always tells me when I mention this that it was because her friends were in that session. Okay, that might be true, but she was the third one, and yeah, whatever. So coming back to what Maria explained before, the session felt a little bit too short, and we had all these concepts there, but the thing did not end it there, right? You have prepared a summary of what to do and what not to do, taking all that collective knowledge, and I think that will be shared, correct?
Correct, yes. We will link it in the postcard description, and you will also be able to find it at the CWSC website. For me, it was a clear thing that small cities have big potential, and co-working can truly work outside the big urban centers if we focus on what really matters: people, community, creativity, and flexibility. Thanks again, Mark, for inviting me, and thanks to everyone who joined the session and shared their knowledge. I think that's the real power of the coworking.
But I think that you're missing something. You told me before that you had a special thanks.
Yes, yes, yes. I would like to thank Ben Kulp, Juan Barbet, Diego Tomás, Martina Moises, and Alberto Pérez Sola.
These people were the ones that lead the groups for each point. So a great shout out to them. Yeah, Maria, thanks for participating in the Flex Factor podcast, and thanks for sharing your knowledge at the CWSC. Remember to check the deck that Maria generously prepared in the podcast description, and remember that María Santos just said, sharing knowledge is the real power of coworking. Bye.
Bye, thank you, Marc.
This episode is made possible by SpaceBrain.
SpaceBring automates tedious tasks, boosts efficiency, and helps retain members. Are you ready to streamline your co-working space? Check out the links in this episode description to learn more.